And Courtney, did we hear from Julie? Hey, Gary.
Aloha, everybody.
Hello, hello. Mahila po.
Hello.
So we're waiting for Roberta and Julie.
Okay.
Justin's supposed to call in too, yeah.
Yep, I sent him the link.
There he is. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Greg. And who else is there? Bill? Joy?
Joy, Regent Behira, and Andy, and Courtney. Courtney's off screen though.
Oh, okay.
And if I think, did I ever get back to you? You wanted to get together to talk about a project.
Yeah, we'd like to,
Yeah.
anytime, well, that's obviously not true.
Are you around on Thursday?
Yes. It should. Yeah, I
Hey.
am.
Hey, Roberta.
Hey,
Hi, Roberta.
hello. Hello, everyone. So we're waiting for Julie, right?
Yeah. Waiting for Julie. Bonnie's on a plane, so she's not gonna be able to join us either.
Okay. But we still have quorum, right?
I think we need Julie.
Yes, 'cause
Right.
Brianna's absent.
Yeah.
We text her. So Julie said she's trying to call in, but it keeps telling her that she has to update her Zoom. So she's waiting.
Okay.
Can she just call in? She's asking. Is the phone number is on the meeting announcement?
Yeah, it should be. Let me go.
She's gonna try to call in, Roberta.
Okay.
Is Sarah online?
Yes, you.
Who is she? She's CMS UHH?
She didn't come up as panelist.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I see Julie as a attendee.
Okay. Do you want me to promote, Sarah?
Yeah,
Oh, there's Julie.
Here I am. Sorry, technical difficulties.
No problem. Okay. So I see everyone here, so I will call the meeting to order. It is 5:04. And first question for those of us calling in via Zoom, please raise your hand is if there's anyone other than yourself in the room. If not, for the record, all attendees via Zoom are by themselves with no other parties in the room. I would like to also indicate that there is no public testimony, so we can move forward to the approval of the minutes for the October 1st, 2020 meeting. Any changes, corrections? Okay, none on my part. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, Greg. Motion and second to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
right,
8 minutes approved. We now move to Kahuku report.
okay. Hello, everyone, good to see you all. As I have done in the past, I'd like to kind of combine my Kahuku report along with my executive director's report. So I'll just kind of roll right into both of those. But before we start, I would like to introduce everybody to our newest employee, Sarah Bergson. She is online with all of us. Sarah is our new HR and fiscal specialist who would be assisting us in the office with various activities. And she will be supporting Courtney with our Mauna Kea Management Board meetings as needed going forward. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me and for the lovely introduction. I look forward to being a part of this amazing group. So thanks for letting me join in tonight.
Welcome aboard.
As Mike told Joy here in the room before the meeting started, we're gonna need everybody's help because we got a lot of work in front of us for the next 3 years. So thank you so much for joining us. Okay, Kahuku report. I reported at our last board meeting that Kahukumana was going to be holding their annual retreat at Halepohaku on November 11th and 12th. We had a full agenda. We did an overnight and then also had a summit tour along with a monthly meeting at that time as well. Friday evening, the 11th, we took them up for a Sunset Summit tour where Kahukumana got to witness firsthand some of the challenges we have with managing visitor traffic on the Mauna at sunset. That evening was particularly busy and it was a real eye-opener for them to see some of the challenges our rangers have with managing traffic, directing traffic, and then of course making sure folks are able to depart the Mauna safely. One of the things that we focused on while during the retreat with Kahukumana was Summit Ahu access, which I briefed you folks on in the past. We discussed not only the challenges we're dealing with, but various options for signage at the summit, as well as increased education of the visitors at the viz when they're acclimating. This has led for us internally, Nahua, myself, and Kaleo in particular, to discuss looking at some really pursuing some other options to looking at and managing access, but in particular to explore the possibility of collaborating with the Royal Order of Kamehameha on managing access. That Ahu, as you may recall, was built by the Royal Order of Kamehameha. We consider it theirs, and they have the responsibility for maintaining it. And we feel that any kind of additional management actions that we take to manage access to the summit there, because most people are going there to go see the Ahu, really ought to be done in coordination with the Royal Order. So we have reached out to the Royal Order. Those discussions are in a very preliminary stage, but I would say that they have been fruitful. The goal at this point is to keep communications open with the Royal Order, build trust, and begin the process of brainstorming possibilities. So there's nothing specific yet that we've come to or landed on, but I think the most positive things thus far is just the fact that we're sitting down together and talking, and there's a willingness to collaborate. So we'll see where this goes. Our relationship, the university's relationship with the Royal Order has been hot and cold over the years, and then really kind of went silent during the protests. So this was this is an important step in sort of re-engaging with them. We had tried in the past, they weren't ready, but they are ready now. So that's all good. Another thing that we did during the retreat, which I've briefed you folks on before previously as well, is Kahukumana inspected the cultural artifacts that are in our CMS's possession that had been collected years and years ago as part of our inventory survey. Those artifacts were collected for further study. Those studies have been completed, and we would like to return them to the AINA. They had a chance to review and actually look at the artifacts, get their hands on them. We had discussions on what would be kept and for what purposes, how artifacts should be stored, the need to develop protocols for the return of the artifacts, and a number of issues like that. After the retreat, internally, Nahua, myself, Kaleo, and Justin have had additional internal discussions. And we decided that it would probably be helpful for us to seek some external consultant help to work with SHPE on the return of the artifacts. And so we are in the process now of in discussions with a consultant who has expressed an interest to work with us. We are waiting for a proposal at this point, so we don't have anything positive or substantive to report yet. But the consultant would be helping us working with SHPE on the return of the artifacts, criteria for determining, again, what would be kept and for what purposes, appropriate storage and display of those items that we do keep, and protocols for the return of the items that are returned to the INA. We have discussed this with Kahu Kumana. They agree with us that bringing in external help would be useful. And we'll keep Mauna Kea Management Board apprised of our progress as this plan takes shape. Lastly, for Kahu Kumana, Shane Nelson and Ui Lani Naipo, along with Kaleo, have been approached by, I'm not sure I'm going to say this right, but the Kavli Institute for Physics and Mathematics of the Universe in Japan, to provide training on the cultural and religious significance of Mauna Kea. Kavli Institute is working on building a major new instrument for Subaru, and they would like the folks working on the project to gain an understanding of what is required to do work on Mauna Kea. The training would be on January 6th. It would be conducted virtually as the group is in Japan. And they estimate it would be for a group of 100 plus or minus multinational astronomers. We believe this is a very good sign that they've reached out to us and signals an increased recognition of the experience and knowledge of our CMS resources. I personally am real pleased that they've extended the request to both Kahu Kumana and Kaleo to assist with this. That concludes the Kahu Kumana portion of my report. Are there any questions? And I will roll, if it's okay, Chair, I'll just roll right into my ED report. Okay, the first item I have is just to refresh your memory. I'm not sure that you folks recall this, but this has to do with Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope underground fuel tank decommissioning project. This project was originally approved, I think it was in 2022. They have a need, Canada-France has a need to decommission their underground diesel storage tank, just like we have a need to decommission our tanks at Halepohaku. They're operating under the same EPA deadline as we are. In their case, the project was first proposed, required doing some testing, soil sampling. Let me pull up a photo here of the project. So this is some photos from the project proposal. There you see in the blue the location of the tank, which is right next to the foundation of the observatory. In addition, it is just a few meters away from the slope of the foundation area, the footprint of where the observatory sits. So the project was initially proposed to decommission or retire the tank in place until such time that the facility itself was going to be decommissioned at some point in the future. And the reason for that proposing that is because of the location of the tank to the foundation of the facility as well as to the nearby slope. You see some photos there on the right of work that was being done. In the first phase of the project, they had to do some soil sampling to ensure that there was no underground leakage of the tank, from the tank. There had been no recorded leakages in the past. And the soil sampling finally came back and approved by the Department of Health. So the second phase of the project is to decommission the tank in place. Currently, Canada France is in discussions with the Department of Health about the appropriate material to be used to fill the tank so they can decommission it in place. Once again, the tank would be removed at such time that the facility itself was decommissioned. The reason why I'm bringing this forward now for your information is because we're kind of in the final stages of final approvals. In fact, we just got one today from DLNR. But I also will be briefing the MKSOA board on Thursday at their meeting with this project. So we wanted to make sure that you folks are aware of it. This is for information only at this point. I'll bring it back when we have all the final approvals that we need. But again, I wanted to just make sure you folks were aware that this project was in place, in progress. Any questions about Canada France?
How many approvals do you need and how many have you received?
Okay, let me pull that up here. Hang on a second. So we're still waiting on Canada France's discussions with Department of Health on what material is going to be used to fill the tank. We just got today a concurrence letter from DLNR for the project to proceed, except they want us to also get DLNR Land Division buy-off, since the project involves leaving the tank in place for now. So that's a step that we now need to complete. And then, yeah, those are the two big ones. The Land Division approval now, as well as the Department of Health concurrence or agreement with Canada France on what material will be used to fill the tank.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that project? Okay, if there are none, I have a number of MKSOA updates. As I indicated, this Thursday is their board meeting. They did not have a board meeting in October for lack of quorum, so all the items that we had on their October board meeting got pushed back to this week. At our last Mauna Kea Management Board meeting, I reviewed with you folks the Caltech sublease termination agreement that we've been working on. And in particular, that whole analysis that we've done to determine Caltech's contribution to future summit-wide utility decommissioning. So we'll be reviewing that with MKSOA on Thursday. That's an information-only item for them. I will be informing them and briefing them, as I just did with you folks, on the Canada France Hawaii Telescope Fuel Tank Project. And then we have the final project proposal and documents that you folks approved in October for the Halepohaku Fuel Tank Replacement Project. And for that particular item, MKSOA has decided that they will be taking a vote on whether they agree that this project should be moving forward or not. I am told, I have not seen it, I am told that management will be making a recommendation to approve the project to their board. But this will be the first of the items that I bring to MK Solar that I know that they will actually formally be voting on. So I think it'll be a good exercise for all of us to go through this process with them. So that's coming up this Thursday. In addition to that, I think we shared with you last time, MK Solar issued an RFP to engage a planning consultant to help them develop their management plan. CMS, Nahua, myself, and Rodrigo, and Dave Longboard sat in on MK Solar's pre-bid offer meeting that was held on October 25th. There were two potential offerers who participated in that meeting. The RFP itself is quite broad, and MK Solar is seeking help not just with their management plan, but they're also looking for the consultant to help them develop a strategic plan for their organization, as well as a plan for shaping their governance structure and their organizational structure. So this is more, they're looking for somebody to help them with more than just the management plan, which I think probably makes the RFP a lot more daunting and challenging to meet. But we'll see how that plan turns out. They have asked, MK Solar has asked if Nahua would serve on their proposal review committee. So she will be part of that group reviewing the proposals. I don't know if there'll be more than the two that participated in that initial meeting. The target date for selecting their consultant is the end of this month. Any questions on MK Solar's planning consultant?
Just a question. So there will be only one consultant for both of these things?
I would imagine, given the scope of the RFP, that consultant will have to bring on a whole bunch of subs to help them with different parts. Because the RFP I mean, the management plan requirements are much different than the strategic plan requirements in governance. So I don't know of a planning firm who can do all of that.
So I guess my question is, are you familiar with the two parties are interested? Do we know them at all, or they done work on it?
Yes, I mean, one of the groups that participated, I don't know if they'll submit, is Jim Hayes, who worked with us on our management plan. He participated, but the other group is a collection of consultants, or I don't know how to, they're a collaborator. They're a group of folks who come together, work on different projects and do different things. Peter Adler is part of that group. The others, and Ray Sukiyama is part of that group, but I don't know all of the others. I do know a little bit about some of the work they've done. I know they did Maui County's Department of Agricultural Strategic Plan. But I really don't know what their bandwidth is.
So does the RFP allow for subcontractors?
Yeah, but they have to identify all of their subcontractors in their proposal.
Is this gonna be one document, or are they gonna break this up, and are they gonna prioritize the management plan over strategizing their internal development plan? Or are they doing all of this simultaneously?
The way the project is, the RFP is written, there are some, I think, two phases, but I don't recall it talking about they talk about the plan. So it sounds like it's all one.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I don't know how you do it in one place.
Yeah,
And it sounds like a very large undertaking.
very large.
Yeah.
Very large.
I would think there'd be subgroups that would champion different areas and then consolidate I guess, the results.
Yeah. I mean, when I read the RFP, I said, okay, this would take several folks with different kinds of expertise, for sure.
Do they have to read or modify the RFP? It sounds convoluted.
I think it may depend on what they get, whether they have to they decide if they're gonna modify the RFP.
Hmm.
So I want to go back to the situation with replacing the fuel tank at the previous site. So on their meeting on Thursday, are they going to approve or not approve the action?
I've been told that MK Soil Management will be making a recommendation to their board to approve the Haleʻoahu storage tank replacement.
So they will be voting that day and not defer it another month.
Right. That's correct. And they understand the timeline that we are under because of the EPA deadline.
Yeah.
And so for further clarification, Greg, John Komiji time and time again has said that they're going to go on a consensus basis, meaning that everybody has to vote yes. So is that really going to continue? I guess is my first question. And secondly, if they don't get 100% in agreement, does that then act, because he said they are not going with majority vote.
This is what I know. I know of one vote that they have taken officially as a board to this point in time, and it was not unanimous. And that was the hiring of their executive director.
But they went ahead anyway.
Yes.
Because they had a majority vote?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know it's very interesting because, if they are going to make progress, they really need to look at, majority voting. Otherwise, nothing. I'm sorry, but I don't see how you forward. But that'll be interesting to see what the discussion is, how they vote, and what they end up deciding.
I agree.
And then I have another question. So they vote, but so we approved recommendation to the UH regents to move forward as the MKMB board, but the regents ultimate are going to approve or not approve. If so, then MK SOA will vote. Once they vote, if it's different from the board of regents, what happens?
A good question. In this particular case, because of the regulatory deadlines that we're working under, and requirements that we're working under, it's not just the deadlines. MK Soil Management is aware that this is something that we can't not do. And we do have to have some kind of replacement, even though we've downscaled the replacement to address our fuel needs. But we do have to have some kind of replacement we can't just decommission the tanks without having that replacement plan in place as well. So I mean, we have no choice but to have to move forward.
All right, so because of those deadlines, UH as the primary, or the UH, because it is the lessor on the property, will have to decide whether they just move forward and take into consideration the MK-SOA input. But because they're ultimately the lessor and responsible to the EPA and all of the regulatory agency, I mean, I guess I'm looking at it that they're going to have to decide to move forward, and regardless of what MK-SOA decides, especially if MK-SOA does not agree.
That's correct. That's correct.
Greg,
Yep.
this doesn't go to the level of the Board of Regents, though.
No, this would be something that Bonnie would approve.
Okay. Good, so Bonnie can decide.
Yeah,
But that's interesting because she's also on MK-SOA.
right. Yeah. Non-voting member on MK-SOA.
That's true. That's true. But hopefully management is clear about the time constraints facing, the university. I mean, facing the situation. And
Right.
that, it's not like you have another year to decide how to change what has been approved.
Right. Yeah, because the project itself, just getting to the point where we're ready to break ground on the project is going to take another year or so, maybe a little longer, because we do have to do an EA as part of the process.
Mike, did you have a comment?
I'm wondering if and maybe Gary, you can chime in on this. I'm wondering if there's any reason for Bonnie to not agree. I would think just from a university standpoint that it's a kind of a non-issue. But I'm just wondering, and maybe Gary can chime in on this, if there's any reason why she might not agree.
I am not aware of any, as pointed out, it's a regulatory requirement, so I'm unaware of any basis she would have to not approve.
So I think in answer to your question, Roberta, I would expect that it would be approved by Chancellor Irwin.
No, I would agree, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with, MK-SOA, and they're saying that, they're responsible, but if they don't agree, I mean, it's going to be the beginning of, I think, well, I actually think it's a good thing because you're going to now start seeing how they are going to have to handle disagreement among themselves.
Yeah, well, I think the initial test was the hiring of John DeFries. And if there was dissent, but they went ahead and hired him, that means there's been discussion about what consensus means to them. Or maybe they've thrown that under the bus. I don't know.
I mean, but what there is no other meaning for consensus.
In this situation, though, doesn't the UH have ultimate authority with regards to the EPA requirement? And that's the bottom line. So we have the legal authority. The university has the legal authority. Obviously, we've already approved the project to move forward. There's got to be a determination, yay or nay, by MK-SOA, but the responsibility still lies with the university. And sets us up for a challenge down the road because we still have to go through the EA. MK-SOA can, obviously put in a petition during the EA process or, reject it during the EA process. And all of that has to be taken into account. But there's no way around this. The university has the ultimate authority. And this is a simple project, really.
I
In the
know.
scheme of things.
I'm bringing it up because I'm hoping it's not going to be an issue, but if it becomes an issue, then it's going to be a really difficult process moving forward.
I am concerned, though, about the time frame with regards to the contractual obligation for the multiple layers that MK-SOA is requesting from an outside entity contractor. I'm just going to assume that the current management plan will remain in place until there is an approved new MK-SOA plan.
Yeah, and that's actually a good segue to my next topic.
Okay.
So as you may recall, MK-SOA created what they're calling an asset transfer working group. Jesse Suki, myself, I've now added Nahua, and then Mike are participants on that working group representing the university. Once again, that working group's role is to come up with a plan for how assets, including leases, permits, subleases, operating agreements, all of that stuff gets transferred or assigned to the to MK-SOA. It's taken them a while, but MK-SOA has finally successfully hired a consultant to assist them with developing a plan for evaluating the transfer and assignment of our leases, permits, real property, personnel, etc. I think I shared with you folks some of the work that Nahua and the managers did in compiling this complete inventory of all of our assets and liabilities. The working group will be meeting on Friday to continue this work. This will be the second meeting that we're having with the consultant. We met with the consultant a couple of weeks ago just to get introduced to him. They created a manifest, which is kind of an index of everything that we have compiled and put in this inventory that's online that all members of the working group have access to. I have now been asked to provide a prioritization of the items to be addressed, as well as suggest how transfers could be bundled because of the interdependency between agreements. So, for example, we really can't transfer personnel if MK-SOA doesn't have a plan in place that defines what our staff does on a daily basis. So transfer and assignment of our comprehensive management plan would make sense that they take that on before personnel get transferred. Same thing with leases and permits and operating agreements. Those things are all kind of bundled together because they all have these interdependencies with each other. So the good thing about all of this is I'm being asked to help them prioritize where to start. And we'll be meeting tomorrow. Mike, myself, Jesse, and Nahua will be meeting tomorrow, and Gary to kind of discuss some of the feedback that we'd like to give the working group as to how to begin to structure this process. The working group is also, or at least selected members of the working group are also planning on doing a site visit to Halepohaku in December. And so we're working with Bill Stormont on the details of that. The purpose of that is to give the consultants in particular, an opportunity to actually see, for example, the leased areas of all of the observatories, the operations at Halepohaku, the buildings, the structures, and all of that. And so they have a chance to actually see what we're talking about when we're talking about some of these assets. Obviously, some of this stuff is less of a priority in terms of what needs to be done. We really need to be spending a lot of time, I think, in the next month or so, helping the consultants sort of work through how things got to be lined up, or how we would recommend lining it up. So that work is continuing. We had been on a hiatus for a while there because it took them a while to hire their consultant. We continue to meet as a joint management committee with the MK-SOA management team. We meet every other week. Those meetings have been used to review projects and operations, issues that come up, and they've been useful for training and developing MK-SOA's management's understanding of our processes, of our policies, our plans, and the rationale behind some of these things. These meetings have also been useful for developing MK-SOA's relationships with our managers and key staff. MK-SOA does also attend our monthly managers meetings. So they're hearing firsthand from our managers some of the issues that they're working on and having to address. A lot of this is real operational in nature, but important for them to gain an understanding of.
Greg, I have a question. Is
Sure. Go ahead.
say MK-SOA's management, isn't it John DeFries and Bill Stormont?
And Lloyd Unibasami.
Okay, the three of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We also right now, as you may recall from last year, MK-SOA needs data and information from us as they prepare their annual report to the legislature. So finally got a schedule from Lloyd when they need to have certain information. So our managers right now are pulling that information together so that they can incorporate that into the report that they have to do to the legislature. So we're working on that. And then the last thing with MK-SOA is they have inquired about using space at Halepohaku for an office. We're working on a rent estimate for their planning purposes. As we were talking earlier, they have secured a lease for the former Bank of Hawaii site in the Kanoileua industrial area, as well as a lease for temporary office space downtown by the federal building. So they still currently operate out of Imiloa, but I don't know when the timeline is for moving into their downtown temporary office space, but I think that should be sometime early part of next year. So that concludes my executive director's report for this evening. Any other questions?
Did you want to go over the natural resource update, or is that just for us to
No, Justin's gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna do that next.
Okay, great. Anybody other questions as it relates to the executive director's report?
Maybe a comment or a question. So the consultant who's working on the lease transfers and all of that, what you were describing sounded quite a lot like the roadmap that you, I think, developed a few months ago. Is that going to help? Is that relevant, or is it?
I'm hopeful that it will. you know, we've provided, a lot of information and some tools like that, to MK, so to John DeFries and his team. And you know, it's not clear what information is getting shared with the consultants, but I'm hoping that information is being made available to them. It at least provides a starting place.
So who is the consultant?
It's the McCorston firm. Joel Cam is the lead attorney. But he has some assistants working with him on this as well.
Any historical background on Mauna Kea? Like, have they worked on anything Mauna Kea related?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
But Gary or Jesse may know better.
Gary or Jesse?
I am not aware of any.
I'm just aware that he's a real estate attorney.
Okay, so it could be all new players again then, Greg.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to bring everybody up to speed again.
yes.
Okay, just mind, you know, these issues and in relation to the timeline. Was there any, oh yeah, no. So you've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question? Wait, sorry. Julie, any questions? No? Okay. Then let's move on to the natural resource update.
Great. So before I turn it over to you, Justin, just a quick intro. You know, every year, Justin and his team have to conduct a number of annual monitoring surveys. And so we have fiscal year 21 through 23, their monitoring report on our invasive and native species monitoring report. But we also wanted to take this opportunity to just update MKMB in general on a number of the things that Justin and his team have been working on and have accomplished in fiscal year 2023, as well as the plans that he and his team have pulled together for the Halepohaku parcel itself, and some of the interpretive improvements we want to make, particularly around themed around our native species restoration plan. So with that, I'll turn that over to you, Justin.
Hey, thanks, Greg, and hello, everybody from the MKMB. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on my team's behalf and represent us. So I'll just go into sharing my screen. Yep, this is the one right there. Okay. You should be able to see that now. Yeah. How's that?
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just gonna go over our 2024 highlights and then just reference numbers from our 2021 to 2023 report, just so you have some context of what the numbers I'm spitting out at you are. But our team right now is comprised of myself, Taylor Warner, Anuhea Robbins, and Leona Keiko alum. Without them, most of this stuff wouldn't get done, so I have to really thank them for conducting all the field work and helping me write all these reports and get all the numbers to you guys. So yeah, just mention of our team. We hired on Leona back in April to help replace some staff, and then also we had a summer pipes intern, Taylor Jenkins, who we're working with now, and then even our we've been just got a Kupu intern on board last week. So we're growing in numbers and also responsibilities. So in terms of standing operating procedures, I think you guys are aware of all that. So in 2021 to 2023, there was 367 total inspections throughout those years. About 50 of them were remediated and about 4 were rejected during that time frame. But then this year we had 265 inspections, which is a lot more than our 122 average that we usually get. So that was just due to the decommissions that you guys are aware of and the increased movement of material to and from the summit area. So we're able to limit all those things with the help from BISC and SWCA with Jimmy Parker and the CSO decommissioning. But yeah. Then in 2021 to 2023, we conducted all of the facility monitoring. So that monitoring happens every quarter, where we put out traps to detect new threats that may have made it up to the mountain that weren't caught during inspections, or they may have been transported up through visitation through tourists or uninspected vehicles, or blown up through aeolian drift or wind. But yeah, so we've been just conducting all those surveys. Nothing new been found, which is a good thing. And then in terms of our vacuum bug monitoring, our really heavy field work during the summer. In 2021 to 2023, there was 2,789 vacuum collected or observed. In 2022, they had 2,464, and then 2023, they had 76. But this year we had 7,008, which is an all-time high, which is interesting in terms of numbers. We don't really know exactly why. There was a lot less snowfall in the winter between 2023 and 2024, which might have helped. But we can't really say for sure. But some of the research that we're doing with Brad Reel, that I'm going to mention a little bit later, helps to touch upon all those questions that we have with their population variation. And then in terms of just our historical site monitoring and our arthropods stuff, we visited 107 sites this past year. From the 2021 to 2023 time period, they've visited 152 historical sites over the 3 years. So that probably was due to COVID really, and a lack of actual field work that was being done during that time frame. And then in terms of restoration activity, this year we're able to take out 15,000 pounds of invasive species from the Hale Pohaku area through volunteer efforts. From the years 2021 to 2023, they had about 11,000 pounds of weeds removed during the entire 3 years. So an increase of staff and help definitely helps to remove invasive species. So we're working our way towards doing all that stuff. And then we're also doing stuff with DLNR and then our Hina propagation, and then also our predator control with Mauna Kea Forest Restoration Project, taking out invasive cats too. And then, as you guys are aware, that we visited 107 sites this year. No new vegetation or arthropod threats to the ecosystem, so we're all good there. And then we've been working with PCSI on our reevaluating our monitoring protocols or our monitoring program, and then also working with them on getting all of our reports submitted to SHPE and getting us all up to date with all of our reports. And then in terms of research permits right now, Walter Haley's is doing a high elevation effect study. He just came back in October. So this time he's coming back to look at the effects of high elevation on muscle protein synthesis. So hopefully we'll get more in-depth answers to the effects of altitude on us as workers up there. Hopefully we get paid a little extra. Nah, I don't know. But and then we have Ryan Perroy coming back on Friday to do a couple more flights because of Hurricane Hone and the damage from those storm systems. So hopefully he'll be able to add to his erosion modeling, and probably have a more in-depth model because of that. And so we look forward to that. And I'm sure the engineers want to see all that stuff too, so they can help make recommendations for some of the erosion controls that need to be put in place. And then Dan and Brad Reel, they're still continuing their research with the Food Network, but they've added on a proposal to do a display within the biz. So they wanted a little bit extra funding, which I think we're gonna approve. They're gonna present at the EC next meeting on their project. But what they would be doing is be creating like a visual interface where they could select species within the Food Network and see what species are eating what. And then it would tell them a little bit about that species, if they're native, how they made it up there, what they like to feed on, and certain other key characteristics that are interesting. And then still Norbert's, we just got his service of agreement approved today. Thank you, Mary Beth. They're on track, PSI, to continue the permafrost monitoring and see the effects of climate change on that. And then recently we've met with Natalie Graham from UH Hilo. She's a new professor, but she's trying to establish a database of genetic sequencing for all the arthropods in Hawaii. And so we have all these samples in our collection. We would like to give them to her so she can help create that database. So we're collaborating with her on that. And then for future goals, I'll talk about our restoration plan for Halepahaku and some seed scatter trials that we're thinking about doing. And then just continue reassessing our monitoring plans, and then helping MKSO with all the transition, and helping Greg out with his huge task of doing all that. Any questions on that part of my presentation? Sorry, that was really fast and a lot of numbers thrown at you. No, okay.
Thank you.
None, I'll move on to the restoration plan presentation. Sorry, I had to break it up. And I don't want you guys to sit through an hour of presentation, so I'm gonna try to get through this quick. So when I first started this job back in the end of 2022, we were kind of just planting things here and there, weeding here and there, and I didn't really know exactly what the whole overall goal was for like our restoration stuff. So I kind of took it upon myself to kind of create a plan. Just started off with like plantings and stuff like that, but then I grew into this whole thing. But I've established 4 goals of the plan, which would be to establish native plant species through outplanting and removal, which we continue to do and we'll keep continuing to do. But we want to expand the CMS greenhouse. So we want to build another greenhouse that has a lot more table space, so that we're not only supplying plants for ourselves at CMS, but also other conservation projects across the mountain. So I see an opportunity there to become one of the most important high elevation greenhouses that have plants that can survive when they're outplanted. And then we also want to do a self-guided educational trail with some interpretation guided hikes throughout the area, and then also a gathering space at Halepahaku for volunteers and cultural practitioners. So don't mind all the words on the screen. These are just all the management actions that we would probably accomplish by establishing the native plant community. We're still doing this right now, which is great, but it would just be enhanced with all this stuff.
Justin,
Yeah.
I think your share screen is, all we're seeing is the previous presentation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You might need to stop share and then reshare.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Noah. Okay. There you go. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, this is the plan. Sorry, you guys couldn't see that earlier. But this is kind of what the trail and everything that needs to get done is gonna get done. So And then this was just all the management actions from the native plant community, how that goal being knocked out would accomplish a lot of our management actions. Expanding the CMS greenhouse would help provide better education opportunities as well as increased production within our greenhouses. So right now we have about 60 feet of table space, and we're about planting around 180 plants every year from the greenhouse out into the field. So if we built another greenhouse with a little bit bigger bench space, all that, we're looking at about 900% increase if we build that greenhouse. And so that would increase our production to about 2,000 plants per year that we could make out to the field. Now, we're going to fill all our space up in those 20 acres pretty quickly with all those plants. But, you know, who would buy them is probably Mauna Kea Forest Restoration Project, Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance, or any other projects going on around Mauna Kea. Parker Ranch, maybe they might want to buy some plants. So I could see an opportunity there. And then with a self-guided educational trail, a lot of our educational goals would be done. We would be providing recreational resource for the area, and then also providing safety. So it would link up to Humu'ula Trail, so they wouldn't be walking on the road to get to the trailhead. They could all walk along the trail, and generally when you keep people off the road, it's a lot safer. And then we'd be working with cultural practitioners, educators, and specialists and experts in developing like an educational signage system and providing an overall appreciation for the mountain in terms of natural, cultural, and astronomic values. Yeah. And so the fourth last goal, if anything, I don't know if this one will make it through, but I think we do need a space to have meetings or to make introductions when we're hosting groups. Right now, when we're doing our work days, we're just going out right inside the Viz, and when we're doing protocols and stuff like that, then there's a lot of public interface, and it would be a lot more intimate if we had our own separate space. And then also that space could be available for cultural practitioners to hold workshops or do something like that. And so with that being said, that's like the main goals. We'd probably be doing this over 5 years. And then we have about 2 acres restored that we are calling restored, and plus the acre in the Hina enclosure that we're responsible for. So we're at about 3 acres of the 16 acres total right now, restored. So just to help speed up that process, this plan should be approved in my opinion. But wait, there's more. Not only will be doing all the work, but we'll be tracking all our successes or failures. So for me, in terms of thinking about Halepohaku, yes, it's a small area, but what can be learned there, I think, is really important. And being part of the university, we really want to focus on tracking success and creating actual research that can be used by other land managers for outplanting success, or seed scatter trials, something like that could be implemented so that we could be practicing techniques that could be used over tens of thousands of acres rather than just 10 acres. So, and then we could always see how the trail makes people feel, so we can see how our social or structure or interaction is changed through changing a space and the use of that space. So I think there's a lot of potential with that as well. And then just a short video of a time lapse of a silver sword that we took over about 8 months, maybe a year, actually. But it just shows the bloom of the silver sword, and then it ended up passing away. But with that, I will take any questions or anything like that.
So Justin, who approves your plan?
You guys.
So Roberta, this is kind of a preview. We'll bring it back and take it through all of the committees as a formal project proposal. Once we have a bunch more details worked out, but it'll go through the whole process that we normally go through.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Justin, for putting this together. And it sounds like, you know, you took it upon yourself to pull all the pieces together. But, you know, I commend you for all the ideas because I think it's something that definitely Mauna Kea will benefit.
I
And
think so.
yeah, and the community. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it'll be like a softball for MK and MKMB to, you know, all agree upon something that's good for the mountain, you know. And so you guys have a base of starting, like, okay, we can agree upon this. Let's move forward from there. So
Right.
that was my whole idea behind it. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Justin, with the expansion of the greenhouse, are you planning to plant the same plants that you currently have, just more of them, or are you going to incorporate other types of plants to see if they can grow as well?
We can incorporate all kind of different plants. Right now there's a big push for like seed banks. So I was even looking at ideas of those, like maybe, you know, if the state really wants to get behind creating seed banks for different ecological regions, I think Halepohaku itself would be a great avenue for that. Like if that's something that they really want to do. And so that site becomes really important for conservation as a
You
whole.
froze.
Oh,
Everybody froze.
sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's unstable on our side.
Oh no, I was just going into like a big idea of like a seed bank up there. Like if you want to be like the major Mauna Kea high elevation seed bank, like that would probably be the perfect site, and we could throw all our apples into that if we wanted, or eggs in the basket, I guess is the correct term. But
And I mean, for now, I think Justin and I have talked about, you know, at least having a seed bank for our lands and maybe our neighbors of the Mauna Kea plants, the native plants in that area, because, you know, we've been talking a lot about fire and fire hazard with all that has recently happened, and making sure that we have our lands taken care of, and at least some for our neighbors too. So we're really looking at that a little bit more seriously.
yeah, and just like a context, like there was a study done in Volcano National Park, like I think in the early 80s or 90s, they had a fire and they wanted to spread out all the seed, but by the time they were like the fire happened, they were too late. So, you know, that's why they're trying to do this now, is so when we do have these big disruptors or fires or storm systems that come in and disrupt an area, we have a seed bank to lay down so it doesn't become a fountain grass zone, right? So, you know, there's like bigger picture things here that are, there is an opportunity, but I don't know how to get it all done. That's all. But yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Could I comment on the monitoring plan document? Which I read cover to cover almost.
Oh, yeah?
A really impressive educational document. I hope it's public or can be made public.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll be putting that on our website soon. And I'll tell the girls they were the majority of the writers that they did a really good job.
So,
Thank you.
and Justin, so you mentioned that the WAQ bug count went from hundreds to 7,000, if I heard correctly.
Yep.
And said you were going to comment about it later in your presentation. So I was curious what.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Brad Reel and Dan Rumedoff. So what their study was on the Food Network up there. So what they did was they looked at DNA sequencing. So they collected a bunch of specimens. They literally dissected the gut of the Vecu bug and all these other bugs. And then they took that material in there, sequenced the material, and they could see what they were eating from the other individuals. So they have a DNA I don't know, footprint, I guess, trail of what they've been eating. So they now know what's eating the VECU, which is mainly the Lycosa, and then what the VECU are eating, which is mainly this kind of rare type of ladybug up there that they're feeding on a lot, and some other type of bug. But this pipe student is actually looking at all our 10 years of data. So now that we know the predators and the preys, we can look back and see if there's a correlation between the amount of predators and prey we have and the amount of VECU we're seeing that year. And so right now we're pushing towards a publication with that undergrad to get her study published on top of Brad's study too. Yeah. So that might give us more insights. Maybe it's not biotic factors, maybe it's abiotic factors, more climate and environmental factors, right? So
Yeah.
we're just trying to rule out variables through every study, really.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Justin, for your report. Very important work you're doing and your people. So mahalo.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
So the next agenda item, Greg, is executive session. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I do have one item I would like to discuss in executive session. So I'd like to move that the Mauna Kea Management Board move into an executive session to consult with our attorney on issues and questions pertaining to our powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities pursuant to HRS 92.5A4 regarding the board's decision-making process in our joint management role with MKSOA.
There's a motion. There a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Motion and second. Moving.
Aye.
Okay, we now move into session.
When did Justin get voting rights?
Still training.
That was great. Thank you.
Courtney, have you had a chance to actually walk Sarah through all of this? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I thought she was coming today,
I
but
thought so too. And Meredith had said she was gonna.
I guess starting next month.
Okay.
Okay, everyone on. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, so it is now 6:47. I will call the regular Mauna Kea Management Board meeting back to session. And Greg, please summarize the executive session we just adjourned, please. Thank you.
Sure. So during executive session, we discussed with our attorneys, the role of the university's advisory boards, committees, specifically Mauna Kea Management Board, Environment Committee, and Kahukumana, as it relates to our joint management role with the Mauna Kea Stewardship Oversight Authority. No decisions or actions were taken. No votes were taken. The discussion was for information purposes only.
Thank you. So announcements. Next public meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 3rd at 5 p.m. Any other announcements, Greg?
No, anything? Your side? No.
No. Okay. Well, it is now 6:48 and I will adjourn the meeting and wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving and best to you and your families. Aloha.
Travel safe.